let's talk about the small matter of, World War III. We understand from White House sources that Donald Trump has approved an attack plan on Iran. He's yet to give a final order. He said, I have ideas on what to do, but I haven't made a final. I like to make the final decision 1 second before it's due. Which is an interesting policy. He goes, I don't know yet that I'm going to even do it. I may do it, I may not do it. Nobody knows what I'm going to do. I'm including Donald Trump, I would say, in this. I can tell you this, Iran's got a lot of trouble and they want to negotiate. Now, this is very much different from the stance that certainly other world leaders thought he was taking at the G7 summit. And yes, Macron and Starmer thinking he'd going back to the White House to try and negotiate. Talk about the Iranians coming to the White House. I'm not sure I'd have the Iranian leadership in the White House. The chances of someone having an explosive inside their body being a bit too high for my liking if I were American security detail. Do you think, A, that Donald Trump will order an attack on Iran alongside Israel? And do you think, B, they should?
A, probably. B, yes. What Donald Trump's saying at the minute, he's saying he's finally made a decision. He made a decision weeks ago. This takes a long time to plan and get all the assets moving, and the assets have been moving across from the Atlantic into the UK and the Middle East for a few days now. He makes a decision at the last minute. His team will be producing what's called a go-no-go brief, and therefore they'll have set a series of conditions to say if this happens and this happens and this happens, we go. If this happens and this happens and this happens, we don't. And if it's a mix between the two, that's when a decision will be made. And yes, he will make the decision, so it'll be 1 second he doesn't know, the next second he's made a decision. So he's accurate in doing that. But all the plans are there, everything's there, and it's all been carefully worked out. There are a number of issues with the options that they're looking at, and that's what will be causing delays. But also Donald Trump has given the Iranians an opportunity to come and do a deal, as he likes to say.
There was the 60 days. The Israeli attack 7 days ago now was on the 61st day. And he still said you can come and negotiate, but we need unconditional surrender.
This is where he's getting the Iranian psychology wrong. He's thinking of things from Donald Trump deal perspective.
This is the problem.
Not the Iranians' perspective. They're never going to come and give in.
Here's the thing. You don't negotiate with a mad axe murderer saying, I'm going to kill you all who's outside your door. You know what you do? You go... and you shoot him dead. I don't there is this Western urge that, it's very much a Labour, it's more of a Democrat side of things. I'm quite surprised by Donald Trump on this. But, he did, like every American president, get elected on an isolationist ticket. Every American president elected on that, and it never ends up working out that well. Even when they try to be isolationists, like Obama, look what happened in Syria. Well done, Obama. That worked out really well, didn't it? They saw the rise of ISIS and goodness knows what. But at the end of the day, it's that, Israel is our ally, US and UK ally in the Middle East. Israel, it's very clear to me. I don't think anyone who thinks this is up for debate, I think, is frankly not paying attention or is an unreliable actor. That this was a preemptive defensive attack. Israel has been told repeatedly by Iran, we want to annihilate you and the Jewish people. We know they are building a bomb. They have enriched uranium. Even the International Atomic Agency has made it very clear they have enriched uranium to a level which has only got a military purpose. Whether they are 2 years, 2 months or 2 days away from a bomb, at any point during that, it is perfectly sensible to me for the Israeli government to take those nuclear installations out, as they have done before. But crucially, there is this crucial bunker which we believe, way below ground, the Fordow nuclear site, buried deep beneath a mountain, that only the US has these incredible bunker-busting bombs that they can actually get close to destroying. 30,000-pound bunker-busting bomb, and they can penetrate rock. Is it like 60 yards before they even explode?
Yeah, about 61 metres, but that's under ideal conditions, and this is the difficulty. The tunnels and the bunkers that the Iranians have got are about another 100 metres deeper than that, they estimate. But it's whether these can cause enough of a shock wave to then damage them.
And they talk about if they sent enough, then they would bring down the mountain.
Bring them down to.
But they would be doing a service to the something that Friedrich Merz, the German Chancellor, said. Okay, should the British be getting involved? Because
we are involved already.
Well, A, we have to give permission for these jets would likely have to take off from the Diego Garcia military base in Chagos Islands. Amazing how often that comes up. We'd have to give permission to the Attorney General at home, who is literally wrong about everything. That he's apparently given advice to the Prime Minister this could well be illegal. There is a lot of hand-wringing by, David Lammy and talk about de-escalation and ceasefires. Well, no. De-escalation and ceasefire isn't going to save the Israelis from a nuclear attack, if there were one. But also, crucially, not speaking out as strongly as Friedrich Merz, the German Chancellor, by saying, yes, Israel is doing our dirty work and we should be grateful to them.
Exactly, and we're giving in to them. You're putting Iran into further context. Iran sponsored Hezbollah. Hezbollah, one of the biggest terror training organisations around the world. They trained the Taliban, the terror organisations that operated throughout Iraq. They're responsible for the most of British deaths on operations recently because they've trained the locals on how to use improvised explosive devices and all the rest of it. They have had a direct effect on this country. UK is involved at the moment because RAF Lakenheath, the Americans are based there. Their tankers are flying out of there. We have to give them permission to use that in operations. We've already done it. Diego Garcia is now more complex. I wonder if Lord Hermer is going to represent the Grand Ayatollah.
He probably would.
He's done Jerry Adams and he's done just about everyone else. But this is where it's farcical giving away Diego Garcia. The problem with the Americans is there's no guarantee that these massive ordnance penetrators, or GBU 57s they are in military speak,
will actually do the job.
Will actually do the job.
But worth a try. What about people saying, look, we don't want to make ourselves a target?
Well, we're a target already. So
we're the little Satan.
Yeah, exactly. We're the target already. Iran is very, very anti-Britain. For years.
Do they burn our flag every Friday? I think they burn the American flag every Friday, don't they?
In certain places, they probably do. When I was in Iraq in 2005, 2006, the Iranians just across the border were exceptionally anti-British and had been for decades beforehand. We picked all of that up in all of the discussions that were coming through. So we are a target already.
Yeah, indeed. Again, it's interesting what's happening in Israel. We've seen a seventh-day wave of strikes from either side. There's no doubt at all. You see the number of missiles coming from Iran, how much their ability has been depleted. But it is interesting, again, as always, watching the BBC, as I have to do for my job. I have to say I wouldn't do it otherwise. The reports about a hospital in Israel that has been bombed, hit by a missile strike, again, has been damaged, hit by a missile strike from Iranian missiles. Very, very different from the terminology they use when they're reporting from Gaza, where they're using information from the Hamas-run health ministry, where Israel has targeted a hospital. Completely different language that is used. I mean, genuinely, I thought it was bad enough that the BBC were kind of pro-Hamas and anti-Jew. Now they're pro-Iran as well. They're obsessed. They're obsessed with women as long as they're men who think they're women. Not that bothered about women, for instance, who are beaten and murdered when they don't cover their hair. Not cover their hair at all, but don't cover their hair quite properly enough. And a regime which wants to kill us. I'm genuinely, if we're going to tackle the enemy, we need to tackle the enemy within. I would say the BBC is among those.
It is, but getting back into Iran itself, the other problem there is if it causes a collapse in the regime, I'm not seeing any indicators of there being a plan for what is going to come next. We never
have a plan. Yeah, be careful what you wish for. We know what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya and
this is part of the problem. This will all be on Donald Trump's go no go brief, and they'll be colouring it in traffic light colours, so red, amber, green. And
we will no doubt have a revival of extremism. That is the issue. And again, but there's already extremism, and there's extremists with a nuclear weapon. Which one do you want? Look, let's talk about what's happening here as well, because there's utter madness here. The benefits bill is huge. I mean, it is already huge. It's almost 60 million quid, or it's about 60 million quid. Benefits bill though is set to rise by 18 billion pounds a year. My maths was terrible there. It's up to 70 million a year if there is no reform. We've had Liz Kendall's planned reforms published, but I mean, they're only trying to cut 5 billion quid off that increase. So there won't be a cut to the benefit bill. It's going to go up, but it's going to go up by 13 billion instead of 18 billion a year, not over that total period, a year. That 18 billion quid extra year, if there were no reforms, is the equivalent, in fact, even more than the entire police budget for this country. these are insane numbers in a first world country with good healthcare. Even if they do manage to get through their tightening of eligibility criteria for particularly PIP, these are personal independence payments, we are still looking at another 750,000 more people claiming those benefits by the end of next year. I mean, they want to cut eligibility for 800,000 people. They'll lose around $4.5 grand a year. Now, Labour MPs are, of course, up in arms because everybody apparently is a victim. And there's no doubt at all, anyone who's paid attention to this, there are people who are claiming these benefits who don't need them.
Correct.
Particularly people who don't have a physical disability but have a mental health claim. People have been encouraged onto these sort of benefits, other kinds of sickness benefits as well. It is untenable, it is unreasonable to pretend, and frankly, obviously a lie, that we have a uniquely sick and disabled population here in the UK compared to other Western countries, which, according to our claimants for disability benefit and sickness benefit, we do. We need to do something about it, and I think it needs to be very, very harsh indeed.
I agree with you completely. You know, a personal example, someone that I know quite well, who's not a friend, but they're registered blind. And therefore they will get all the maximum benefits for, and you know, she's got visual impairment definitely, but when it goes to getting a case review, has to have a taxi and has to be escorted to get to the benefits office to have her assessment done and everything else.
I have a good friend who's blind who walks to the school every day.
Out for lunch in the pub, she can read the specials behind the bar better than I can. We'll take the bus around the place. We'll do courses that are paid for by her benefits at university. They're all paid for, but she's getting a house paid for. She's getting her kids paid for through university. She's getting getting everything else paid for. And
that's the thing. It's always not just those tiny little benefits that someone gets this much extra a week.
Yeah.
it opens up a whole raft of other benefits.
And I called her out on it, and she said, "No, I'm getting all this. I'm not going to go to work ever because I'll get all this paid, and I like my house and everything else.
I'm better off on benefits.
I'm better off." And I said, "Well, why are you doing all the courses and business?" "Oh, I have to do something to keep me interested."
Oh my God!
And she's doing computer courses, computer programming courses.
But this is,
it's all visual.
This is immoral.
Yes,
we need to
immoral.
call it out for what it is.
Yeah.
And the key thing is, we would be able to give more help to people who genuinely really needed it.
And that's the trouble.
If we weren't spending money on people who didn't.
Yeah.
I am genuinely, I'm at a point where, honestly, I've said this before, I want village halls, and people have to come forward and explain why they need their benefits.
Yeah.
And we get to vote. I'm at that level because I just do not trust that the system is getting it right.
And the other thing is that people that are on benefits should be forced to go out and work in their local communities to gain their benefits. So you go and you clean the graffiti up, you clean the litter up, you dig the weeds up. You
can't get another job,
because
then that's what you're going to do.
Local councils can't afford to do that. You have to do 2 hours of community service a day to get your benefits.
Well, I mean, again, I've got a very good friend who works in the benefits office, and she says you can always tell when people want to work because they go out and get a job. Yeah. It's as simple as that. They sign on because they've been made redundant, and you don't see them again. But also, she's got a huge number of people who are disabled who desperately want to work. And again, the giveaway they do is that they do actually find work. And given that we're at, especially physical disability, there's mental disability is different. I think there are different issues there. But again, people who claim they've got anxiety and depression, who function otherwise. I think that's an insult to people who genuinely do have severe problems and concern. And you had, you're very open. You had post-traumatic stress disorder.
I had PTSD, very severe PTSD, and I get really annoyed at lots of people who claim that they've had a bit of PTSD. And it is a life-changing condition, and in many cases, unfortunately, it's a life-ending condition.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I just think we need to be, frankly, we need to teach an awful lot more resilience and require resilience. And I have a funny feeling that when you require it, you get it from most people. But as my friend says, she's got lots of people she knows who they are disabled and they still work, they get work. And there's so much more work available now because people can work remotely that actually disability wouldn't necessarily impede your ability to work.